Hey, what's up, everybody? It is your girl JoJo, and I know you guys are over me. The Ready to Love Reunion Part 2 review. Ready to Love came on last Friday, and here I am, just one day shy of it being a week, coming in and trying to do a review. But I just wanted to finish what I started. I know a lot of people aren't going to watch, and that's fine. But for those of you who were interested in hearing what I had to say, I said go ahead and finish out part 2 of the reunion. You might as well go ahead and watch it and review it. I got back from out of the country late Saturday night. My flight kept getting delayed. And by the time I got back to Texas, I was just over it. You know, we were supposed to get back at 3 o'clock in the day, and we did not get back until after 11 p.m. So I just was not interested at all in doing anything. And on top of that, it was cold in Paris and London. And so I was a little bit under the weather when I got back. And I feel like I'm just now kind of getting back to myself. But you may still hear a little bit of the congestion as I'm going through. So let's talk about this show. I'm actually watching it as I do the review. Like watching it late and doing the review late, y'all. Just trifling. So, yeah, let's talk about what happened. So I watched my review for part 1, and I could have done so much better. Like, I hate that I was out of town and I was distracted, because I really could have fired off better than what I did. So I'm going to try to make up for it in this part 2. So we pick up where we left off with Morgan calling Tony a monster and saying that she will air him out on that stage, that he better shut up talking. And one thing I noticed about Morgan is that when she is in fight mode, anybody can get it. You know, some people can kind of direct their ferocity to the person that they're dealing with. Not Morgan. Anybody who tries to interject in any way can get it. Speaking of interjection, didn't we say we didn't want nephew Tyler Perry hosting these reunions? I forgot to mention that last week. We don't like when he hosts a reunion. Y'all can bring that other lady back. Sometimes she's not very good at calming down the stage, but I like her. I like the way she asks questions better, and I like the way that the cast responds to her better. I forget her name, but she also hosts the Love and Marriage Huntsville reunions, I believe. Just bring her. Let her be the own reunion host. I don't really know why nephew Tyler Perry is up there. I would prefer for somebody else to do the hosting. I really would. But Morgan is upset. They have to take a break, and she goes and she tries to get herself together. Now, while she's trying to get herself together, that doggone Jeffrey back there trying to have a man bashing session, you know, talking about how him and Dre done stuck together. Now's not the time, Jeffrey. This really don't have nothing to do with you or Dre and his pedal pushers. Now, I noticed that they wasn't shorts, y'all. They was pedal pushers, Bermuda shorts, whatever you want to call it. But I noticed that it wasn't quite a short, okay? It actually tapered in at the knee with a little slit or something on the side. So it was really, he looked like he delivered newspapers. It's just so many ways that we could go with Andre Pratt, excuse me. But Jeffrey, now is not the time. That's not really about you. I hate when I'm in my mode of being upset, somebody come back there and try to make it about them. That's not about you, baby. We talking about this situation right here. So Morgan tries to collect herself. She's irritated. And then you see Tony over there with his arms around Marcy and giggling about what just happened. I'm like, Morgan, don't give this man no energy. You are a joke to him. Tony is so just, I hate it for her. I hate it for her. So when they get back out on stage, she's still upset. Tony, not so much. I feel like he's calmed down some. So they get to talking about the house, and nephew Tyler Perry asks, you know, why do you think that so many connections got stronger while y'all was in the house? And Marcy said because they was horny, which is probably true. But also, you know, the house does tell all, because you guys are going to be around each other 24/7. You're in each other's space. Let's say you've just been going on dates. Y'all haven't necessarily been to each other's house or had any spend the night sessions or anything like that. This is the time for all of that to happen. So, you know, you get to see where people really stand. And so Lyndon talks about how he thought he was the only one at the house really trying to make a decision, or he thought everybody was trying to make a decision, but he realized quickly that he was the only one that still needed to make a decision. And when he was playing that pool game with Tony, they really were playing for Morgan's heart. But then he began to realize the toll that it was taking on Morgan and the difficulty that she was having. And even though they had had some really good times together, he kind of knew that it wasn't about to be him. Morgan talks about how difficult it was for her and how Tony had a lot of, nephew Tyler Perry does wonder if Morgan made the right decision. And Morgan says, you know what, with Lyndon, there was just some things that I wasn't sure about. And then once we got to the house, I started to realize that it was more than a crush with Lyndon. But I had already been so wrapped up in Tony, and we had already spent so much time together. But Tony was exhibiting red flags. And then again, Lyndon was not. I really think what it boils down to is that Lyndon is just not at the place that Morgan would like him to be in his life, as far as his finances and maybe some of his maturity and some of his ways. But Tony does have those things, but not really. I don't feel like Tony is that emotionally mature either. Lyndon might even be more so than him. He just don't have the funds. But she starts talking about how she does wish that Marcy had been there because that would have been a distraction for Tony. Now, listen, Marcy says, excuse me, I'm not a distraction. So then they get to arguing back and forth with each other. And Morgan's just like, I wasn't talking to you, honey. I wasn't talking to you, but you would have been a distraction. You would have been a distraction, but you wasn't because you weren't there. And I was like, Morgan, your issue is not with Marcy. Stop all of this. And you could have just been like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't have used the word distraction. I don't know why she was going at it with Marcy. I do know why. Because she was just mad. She was just mad. She probably was so irritated with Tony and Marcy sitting over there laughing and being close to each other. She was just irritated. And I got what she was saying. If Marcy had been there, she could have kind of balanced everything a little bit better. But girl, you didn't want Marcy to be there. You know you be wanting Tony all to yourself until you got him all to yourself and you realize you better be careful what you wish for because he's crazy. But so are you. Okay, both of y'all is crazy. So she keep telling Marcy to shut up talking to her, and I was just like, Morgan, get yourself together, girl. Nephew Tyler Perry, like I said, he doesn't do a good job of handling the cast. I wish old girl was here. And when he does handle the cast, he does it like in a fatherly way. So maybe that's why he's trying to pull back, but he need to do something because this is just a waste of time. But what it all boils down to is that she wishes Morgan had been there because then maybe she could have had a better time balancing her connections. And we'll just leave it at that. All right, so we get pedal pusher Pratt and we get Jeffrey and Cynthia and Anthony on stage. So I'm noticing Cynthia and Anthony's body language throughout the show, part 1 and part 2. I'm watching it as I go, so I don't know what's about to happen, but I'm just noticing some things as we go. And I'm going to see if what I'm thinking is going to be correct. So we have them. We're talking about kind of their little love square that they had all together with making their decisions. Nephew Tyler Perry does ask Cynthia how she initially felt about Andre. Oh, actually, no, he starts with Andre and asks how he felt about both of the women. And he said initially he was very attracted to Jeffrey. It was like a magnet. With Cynthia, he noticed that she was very curvaceous. Both of his answers when it came to both of the ladies, I noticed, like Marcy said, very surface, very looks oriented. And you would think that as we get older, that those kind of things would start to I'm not saying not matter, but they wouldn't always be so much at the forefront of your mind when it comes to who you want to spend your life with. Of course, we know you have to be attracted to somebody, but you would think you would be able to immediately name other characteristics about a woman that would kind of fit more of that long-term ideal and those long-term thoughts. So I think it's interesting that every time somebody asks what it is that he liked about Jeffrey, it's always about her look or how attractive she was to him. And then he says those same things about Cynthia. Cynthia says that she didn't really notice anybody when she came through the room because she was so nervous. Y'all know Cynthia got away with words. You're not going to trip her up into saying how she really felt about anybody initially, because she almost like, the girl be ready. But he said at the time, him and Jeffrey talked about everything that he felt like they needed to talk about, all of the things that mattered. When it came to Cynthia, he said Cynthia just kind of caught him by surprise. I always felt like he thought that Cynthia was a little bit too strong-minded for him. And that's not really something that he was wanting in a woman. Even though Jeffrey is strong-minded too, her demeanor is a little bit different than Cynthia's. Cynthia says she never really felt like she was in competition with Jeffrey because she believes in kind of letting everybody do what they do. Anthony felt the same. He didn't feel like he was in competition with anybody because people are going to go where they need to go. If he was the right fit for her, then that's where she was going to go. If Anthony was the right fit for her, then she was going to come towards him. We do get a little bit more of the conversation between Andre and Jeffrey, and I'm really glad Jeffrey had the opportunity to kind of calm down from what she said earlier and the things that she was talking about earlier, because I was able to understand her a little bit more clearly, and she didn't come off as defensive as she did before. But she did say that she really meant the things that she said to Dre. She meant every word that she said in the finale. She said that she was hurt that he not turned on her, but he switched up on her the way that he did in the end. And she feels like Dre knew prior to even the end of the show that they weren't really going to be a fit, that he wasn't really going to be ready to take on everything that she came with. She does have 3 children. Why are you questioning me about men that do not want to be a part of their lives? I can't force them to do so. And I believe that she said Andre asked at one point, how are you going to have time for our children or how am I going to have time? Basically, I'm trying to figure out how he worded it. When is there going to be time for his children when he has to be a father to hers? And right then, I feel like Jeffrey should have went ahead and called it, because why are you saying things like this to me? You know what I come with. You choose whether or not you want to accept it. And I'm not saying anybody has to accept Jeffrey and her 3 children, because you don't. I always will say, if you don't want to deal with a woman with children, don't date women with children. Point blank, period. If you're going to be analyzing and having all these rules for, where the father's got to be and how old the kids are and what time, just don't do it. I would rather you just not do it at all. But when this Jeffrey situation, I think that Andre is used to dating women with children, but I think he's used to dating women with children who either have a really good co-parenting situation, or maybe they only have 1 child. This is 3 and the fathers are not there. It's not adding up to him. I admitted that a couple of episodes ago, it wasn't necessarily adding up to me either. But regardless, the children are here, and you decide if you want to deal with this woman or not. Do not come into this woman's life to hit it and quit it, to wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, when you don't want to take stuff like that on. I know that Jeffrey has to be accountable for whatever red flag she ignored, or, kind of falling for somebody and not really seeing what they were about necessarily. But I also believe that when somebody does something effed up to you, they effed up, I have to own my part of maybe not looking at things like I should have, but that person is still not right. That's still not something that you should do to a person. So I think that Andre knew early on, he was just attracted to her, and he was going to let it go for however long he could let it go, So anyway, I've talked about that for too long. Of course, I don't see these 2 doing nothing else together. Jeffrey says that she is not dating. Her current status is single, and she's going to be single until somebody decides they want to put a ring on it. If I were Jeffrey, I would just focus on my children. I really would. I would not bring another man into their lives, and I would not even consider, especially with the fact that she has Crohn's, I wouldn't even consider having anybody else's kids. I'm raising my kids, keeping my stress levels down, And maybe get you. Oh well, you are a biblical woman, so maybe you ain't into that. But if you are, girl, just get you a little somebody, you know, to lay on a Wednesday or whatever, once a week. Get you a tune up. Y'all have an agreement, and don't let these folks stress you out. Okay, I focus on my children, but that's just me. What else was I gonna say? Andre said that he is dating, and again, Andre, I do wonder what you trying to do, because you knocking on 40 and you talking about you want to have these children. I'm not finna get into what I normally get into, but come on, bruh. You said you've had plenty of women to date. You've been in Forbes. All right, it should be women lined up down the block to be Pratt's wife. Let's get to it. Anyway, y'all, that was the segment between them, and we're going to get to Cynthia and Anthony, I think, next. Ooh, wee! Hypocrisy all over the stage. Okay, so we got Toxic Tom and Toxics up on the stage. Mine is Marcy. I won't include her in the gang, but Toxiana and them, they back on the stage. It's Tony, it's Marcy, it's Natasha, it's Morgan, it's Linda, and I don't know why Janique was up there. Is her name Janique? Baby, I forgot you was on the show. Bless your heart. But I did like you, though. I did. So they all on stage, and it's time for Natasha to tell her story. So Natasha is letting everybody know in a roundabout way at first what happened between her and Tony. They went out on some dates. They spent some time together, and at one point Tony asked her, did she want him to get off of the show? Tony conveniently don't remember that. He don't remember saying that, and he don't even know if he would have done that. Like, if she say he said it, then yeah, maybe, but he doesn't know if he would have done that. Mark Anthony is in the back talking about wanting to see some receipts, and that people were slandering Tony. I really did not like Mark Anthony half of this reunion, because why you always got something to say? We don't need you to root on the brotherhood. We need you to focus on your own dealings. I don't really like when guys do that. Like, if your bruh is wrong, your bruh is wrong. Let him fight his own battles, okay? Because I guarantee you, if it come down to some coochie and Tony got to go against some veg, he not gonna have your back, Mark Anthony. So just sit back there backstage and watch the show and gasp like everybody else was doing. So Natasha is feeling some type of way at this point. She's irritated with the things that Tony is saying. She feels like he is being a playboy. He's being manipulative. When they jump back over to Morgan says that she found out about Natasha a little later. She didn't know initially. But as soon as Marcy left the house, Tony called her and was like, you got to get rid of Lyndon. You got to get this dude off the show. So Tony was always being manipulative behind the scenes, to which Lyndon wants to let Tony know, I just want to let you know that I always spoke highly of you. Poor Lyndon. I mean, he's just, bless his sweet little heart. He don't deserve to be involved with none of these people. But Marcy says that Tony does have a big ego, and it is the reason why Marcy has just been friends with Tony. They go out on dates. He will not be getting a dinner date because she's a very careful woman, and she just doesn't have time for that. Morgan is kind of going with the men will be men type of vibe when it comes to the situation between Tony and Natasha. But Morgan also looks extremely deflated and tired and over it on that stage. And so when the men will be men thing comes up, and when Marcy just kind of shrugs it off, Natasha is just like, I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. This dude was wrong. He came onto the show not looking for love, not ready for love. And Natasha, I would say neither did you. Not ready for love, not looking for love. He came on there just saying what he thought women wanted to hear, portraying himself as a man of God and this great father, and he's really not that. He needs to get himself together and really get himself to the point where he wants to be in a relationship. Now, I agree with Natasha, I do, but I will also wonder what were her motives for coming on the show as well, because once you got eliminated, you were still kind of kicking it, and then you slept with this man within a couple of days. So it's just kind of like, what were you looking for, you know? And listen, y'all grown. If y'all was looking for something else, that's cool. But if you coming on the show, we know the show is about relationships and about wanting to be in a relationship. So I would say you may have wanted a romp just as much as Tony wanted a romp, you know? That's just kind of what it appears to be anyway. Tony said we had a 2-week situationship, to which Natasha didn't like. That offended her. And I was just like, don't even get offended. Now, he did say that to kind of try to throw you under the bus or make you look, make you look like, you know how they try to make you look. I would have just owned it because he had the 2-week situationship with you. And so it looks like maybe neither one of you were ready, but I would like for both of you to cop to it. And not just treat it like, it was just such a Tony is manipulative, but for Natasha to sit there and say that, it does seem a little bit hypocritical on her part, but I do get what she's saying. He did come on the show to kind of play with everybody. He was never really serious, right? Nephew Tyler Perry ends up saying that we got to do better. This is not no show where you can just come to be a player, and we got to do better, especially by our black women, because they tired of putting up. Nephew Tyler Perry, you got your light-skinned nerve to sit up there and say that. It's not that I don't agree with you. I appreciate it, bruh. But let me tell you something. You one of them men that had somebody waiting and was playing games with him for years, because we ain't forgot that you was only married to Jacqueline. You and Jacqueline ain't been married that long, but y'all been together for many, many years. I think 20-something years. And y'all ain't been married for even half of that. So don't come up here telling folks what they need to do by our black women when you didn't do the same. Okay, you one of them, if you ask me. And don't you sit and don't nobody say, well, maybe she didn't want to ain't nobody staying with you that long. You know what? Let me just calm down. I'm not going to let Ready to Love. This show ain't even on no more. And I'm getting riled up. But just to sum up the whole thing, I think everybody on that stage was sounding a bit hypocritical, minus Marcy. Everybody else to me and Lyndon was just sounding hypocritical. Natasha for calling out the fact that somebody else wasn't ready to love when I don't think she herself was ready to love by her own actions. Tony definitely wasn't ready to love, was sitting up there acting like he wasn't trying to be a player when we all know that's what it was. And we saw it very early on with you, that you were never really serious about any of these women. You're still not serious now. I hope that Marcy does not think about giving you the time of day. And then Morgan to sit up there and talk about how when Marcy left, Tony was doing all of this different stuff and this whole men will be men. When Morgan, you saw the red flags all over the building when you were dealing with Tony, but for whatever reason, you wanted a piece of that. And now that you got it, how does it feel? So everybody on that stage just looked like some clowns to me. It was just some equal opportunity clowns, including Nephew Tyler Perry. Let's move on. Oh, yes, I was reading it correctly. I did not feel like Anthony and Cynthia were still together, just by the way that they have been interacting with each other throughout the reunion. It hasn't been unpleasant. It's just been very separate. Like, this is the homie, or almost like, I ain't really feeling him right now. He know what he did, but that's still my boo. Okay, y'all know how you get with your man, like when y'all out in public. Well, maybe it's just me, but he done piss you off, so your body is pointed away from him, but y'all still together. That's the vibes that she was giving on the stage. So when they talked about their relationship and if they were or were not together and the things that's been going on, what it comes down to is that Cynthia says that there are things about Anthony that are different for her, and that she has noticed, or she has recognized in herself, that she is emotionally unavailable towards him and that she wasn't handling him correctly. So she decided that she needed to take some steps back to do some work on herself. And as much as I like Cynthia, I'm annoyed with her. I am really annoyed with her, you guys. And I try to be like, I love the ladies, okay, I really do, but I'm not about to pull a Mark Anthony and just be rooting for the ladies at all costs, like he doing backstage for the men. I'm not about to do that. whoever in my comments, and it's a male, I don't have a lot of men that watch my channel, so he knows who he is, but he said in the comments that Cynthia was gonna eat Anthony alive, that she was gonna eat him up or something along those lines, and I guess he was right. I just think that I think Cynthia knew this about herself already, and I really do think all of that talk that she was doing, I'm not saying that it was fake. I think that Cynthia has done a lot of work on herself, but she's done a lot of work on herself by herself. So when she actually gets into a relationship and has to put this work to task and have to put this work to use, she's recognizing that, oh, maybe all that stuff I was talking about was easy to do when I was alone. But now that I'm in a relationship, I can't operate like I did when I was alone, no matter how much growth I've had, no matter how much growth I've experienced. Anthony does come off as a very patient person, and he says that as long as Cynthia is willing to do whatever it is she needs to do, that he is willing to be there, and she's willing to do it because she feels like he's worth it. So there's no animosity between the two of them, which is great. But I'm really irritated with Cynthia. I really am. Because we getting too old for this. Like, what steps back are you taking? What is it? They never really, and I'm gonna tell you, they already on a good relationship track, because them two kept a united front. They never really said what it is that Cynthia needs to work on. She never really said what it was about Anthony that was bringing that out of her. They both just sat there smiling. They never really let it all the way out. I'm pretty sure they've had other interviews after this and they've talked about it, and I just haven't seen it. But yeah, Cynthia irritated me, guys, because all that talk about her growth and all the things and the work that she's done, you would not think that that would be the thing that she would get on stage and talk about. That annoyed me. Mark Anthony, again, in the back, in the peanut gallery. Well, ladies, why y'all coming down on Anthony? Nobody was coming down on Anthony. Marcy was basically just saying, like, both of y'all need to speak up. Like, what are y'all talking about? Mark Anthony, stop that. Like, what is wrong with you? Are you a bro? Are you one of those? Do I need to see what your YouTube subscriptions look like? Like, what's going on with you? Like, now I'm starting to give you the side eye, Mercedes. You might want to beware of Mark Anthony, because I don't like the way he move. Dudes like that get on my nerves, okay? You can't just ride for the bros and everything. But I will say, Anthony, it don't seem like he did anything wrong on this stage. But Cynthia says she gonna do the work. She says she gonna do the work, child. What a pity, what a pity. All right, lastly, Mark Anthony and Mercedes. Basically, I don't have much to say about them. Mercedes and Mark Anthony still have a friendship, but they're still attracted to each other. You can definitely tell they're very close to each other. We've noticed that since part 1. But Mercedes said that she chose herself at the end because, if anything, she wanted to walk away from the situation, still at least having Mark Anthony's friendship. She did not want to get started in a long distance relationship with Mark Anthony, because that changed the whole entire game. On top of that, his last relationship was long distance with a flight attendant. Mark Anthony says that ultimately he understood what she meant. If I'm looking for somebody solid, an anchor, like she said, I can't be an anchor for her in another state. So he understood it. However, it's hard to be friends with her because she's so fine, y'all. She's so fine. And that just lets me know they're probably still interested in each other. Lyndon even does the rabbit ears when he say friends. Just let Lyndon host a reunion. When he says friends, it might be friends with a little bit of benefits. I would not doubt that those two very attractive people who have been all over each other thus far may be, involved in a little hanky-panky. A little healthy hanky-panky ain't never hurt nobody. So that might be happening, but they are not in a relationship. That's what we do know. And yeah, I really think that's it. I can't think of anything else that happened. We didn't really hear from Jonique. Didn't hear much from the short guy that got eliminated early. There were just some people we really didn't talk to that much. But the reunion is over, y'all. They say some famous last words. Y'all know Lyndon. Lyndon gonna be the host next year, y'all. He really do think he the host now. And we'll just see what next season has for us. I don't know what city is going to be in. What did you guys think about this season? This season to me, it just wasn't that good. I've had better seasons, but I will say it did hold my attention for the most part. For the most part, it did. It wasn't completely, just dry, but yeah. Hopefully this will be our last time in Miami for a while. You guys let me know what you thought about the reunion, and let me know what you thought about the season. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye.